Imagine standing in the middle of a vast golden savanna, where the only sound is the wind whistling through the dry grass. For years, this patch of the Kenyan wilderness was a ghost town for one of the most iconic creatures on Earth. The black rhino was gone, chased away by history and the shifting tides of the landscape. But recently, a fleet of heavy trucks rumbled into this silent territory, carrying 32 of these massive, prehistoric-looking giants. This was a mission of hope, a gamble involving millions of dollars and some of the most dedicated conservationists on the planet. The plan was simple: reintroduce the rhinos and let nature take its course. But as soon as these 3,000-pound tanks stepped off the ramps, something completely unexpected began to happen to the king of the jungle. The local lion prides, who had ruled this empty savanna for generations, suddenly found themselves in a world they no longer recognized. We aren't just talking about a change in territory. We are talking about a complete behavioral shift that has left biologists stunned. Today, we are looking at the incredible domino effect of the black rhino reintroduction and the shocking way the lions of Kenya have reacted to their new, armored neighbors. To understand why this move was so high stakes, you have to realize that black rhinos are not like their cousin, the white rhino. While white rhinos are generally social and a bit more predictable, the black rhino is the eccentric, moody hermit of the African plains. They are smaller, faster, and notoriously protective of their personal space. They are the kinds of animals that will charge a moving truck just because it looks like it's having too much fun. So, when the Kenyan government and conservation groups decided to move 32 of them into a new sanctuary, they knew it wouldn't be a peaceful transition. But they didn't do this just for the rhinos. They did it for the entire ecosystem. When a large animal like a rhino is missing from a landscape, the environment begins to change in ways that aren't always good. This is what ecologists call a trophic vacuum. In the absence of the black rhino, the thick scrubland and thorny bushes of the savanna began to overgrow. Black rhinos are browsers, meaning they are like the heavy-duty pruning shears of the wild. They eat the woody plants that other animals won't touch. Without them, the savanna becomes a tangled mess, and that is exactly where our story with the lions begins. For the years that the rhinos were absent, the lions had it easy. The overgrown scrub provided perfect, dense cover for them to hide in. They could lounge in the thickets during the heat of the day and launch surprise attacks on zebra and impala with almost no effort. They had become lazy hunters in a sense, relying heavily on the thick vegetation to do the work of concealment for them. But the moment those 32 black rhinos were released, the landscaping department of the savanna was back in business. Within months, the rhinos began to do what they do best. They started clearing the brush. Their massive horns and powerful jaws made quick work of the overgrown acacia and thick bushes. Areas that had been dense walls of green for a decade were suddenly transformed into open corridors. For the lions, this was a disaster. Their favorite hiding spots were literally being eaten away. But that was only the beginning of their problems. The real shocker came from how the rhinos actually interacted with the lions on a daily basis. Lions are used to being the ultimate authority. Most animals see a lion and they run, but a black rhino doesn't have a run button in its brain. It only has a charge button. As these 32 rhinos began to establish their territories, they frequently crossed paths with the resident lion prides. Instead of the lions asserting their dominance, it was the rhinos who took control of the conversation. There are reports from rangers of a single black rhino walking straight through the middle of a pride of 13 lions, forcing the big cats to scatter like house cats. The lions, who had never seen anything this large and this aggressive in their territory, were visibly confused. This physical displacement led to a behavioral shift that biologists are still trying to map out. The lions started moving differently. They became more nomadic, less likely to stay in one spot for long. They realized that the pruning behavior of the rhinos meant that the lions had to be much more strategic about where they slept and where they hunted. They could no longer rely on the thickets. They began to hunt more at night, using the cover of darkness to compensate for the loss of the bushes. But the most incredible thing happened with the lions' social structure. To deal with these new, massive intruders and the changing landscape, the lion prides began to form supergroups. Usually prides are fairly consistent in size, dictated by the amount of prey available. But in this specific region of Kenya, the prides started to merge. They seemed to realize that there was safety in numbers when dealing with a 3,000-pound tank that had no respect for the king of the jungle. They also needed more eyes and ears to hunt in the newly opened terrain. The rhinos were effectively engineering the savanna. By opening up the landscape, they weren't just bothering the lions, they were also helping other animals. Suddenly, plains game like zebras and giraffes had better visibility. They could see the lions coming from much further away. This meant the lions had to work twice as hard for a meal. The energy dynamic of the entire park shifted. The lions were now leaner, more active, and ironically more successful in the long run because they were forced to sharpen their hunting skills. They were no longer the spoiled rulers of a tangled thicket. They were once again the elite athletes of the open plains. What makes this release so special is the empty savanna aspect. Usually rhinos are moved into areas where there is already a small population, but this was a total reboot. The 32 individuals were carefully selected from different regions to ensure genetic diversity. They were transported in massive crates, monitored 24 hours a day, and released with satellite trackers. The Kenyan authorities were terrified that the rhinos might wander off or that the local predators might target the younger ones. But as it turned out, the rhinos were more than capable of handling themselves. In fact, the rhinos seemed to almost enjoy the presence of the lions. From a rhino's perspective, a lion is just a small, noisy neighbor. There is incredible footage from the project showing a black rhino mother and her calf drinking at a waterhole, while a group of 6 lions sits just a few feet away, watching with a mixture of awe and terror. The mother rhino didn't even lift her head. She knew that as long as she was in her prime, those lions wouldn't dream of coming near her. The success of this project has massive implications for conservation across Africa. It proves that you can't just save an animal, you have to restore an ecosystem. By bringing back the black rhino, Kenya restored the pruner of the savanna, which in turn forced the top predator to adapt, which then allowed the prey species to flourish. It's a beautiful, chaotic circle of life that was only possible because 32 rhinos were given a new chance at a home. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. Moving animals of this size is a logistical nightmare. It involves specialized cranes, high-tech sedatives, and a team of veterinarians who are essentially playing a high-stakes game of giant animal chess. One wrong move, one bad reaction to the medication, and $1 million conservation effort could go sideways. The rangers worked around the clock, mapping out the rhinos' movements and ensuring they were settling into their new territories. They noticed that the rhinos had preferred neighbors. Some would stick close to each other, while others would head for the hills to be alone. The lions, meanwhile, were going through a collective learning curve. One of the young male lions was seen trying to test a rhino. He crept up behind it, perhaps thinking it was just a strange-looking buffalo. The resulting charge from the rhino was so fast and so violent that the lion was nearly knocked clear into the next county. He survived, but eyewitnesses say he never went near a rhino again. That specific lion actually changed his territory entirely, moving to a different part of the park where the rhinos hadn't yet ventured. This created a predator-free zone for the rhinos, which is exactly what the conservationists were hoping for. The vegetation change has been the most visible transformation. If you look at satellite imagery of the park before the release and 1 year after, the difference is night and day. The gray-green smudge of overgrown bush has been replaced by a more checkered pattern of open grasslands and scattered trees. This is the healthy state of the savanna. It allows for a greater variety of insects, birds, and small mammals to thrive. The rhinos aren't just saving themselves, they are the architects of a biodiversity explosion. Another shocking development was the waterhole diplomacy. In a dry environment like the Kenyan savanna, water is the ultimate currency. Before the rhinos arrived, the lions controlled the water holes. They would sit by the water and wait for thirsty animals to arrive. It was like a drive-through for predators. But the rhinos changed that. A black rhino drinks a massive amount of water, and when they want to drink, they don't wait in line. They walk straight to the front. The lions were forced to give up their prime hunting blinds at the water holes because the rhinos simply wouldn't tolerate them being there. This meant that for the first time in years, other animals could drink in peace. The trackers also noticed that the elephants in the area reacted to the rhinos. Elephants and rhinos have a complicated relationship. They are both giants, and they both know it. At first, there were some tense standoffs between the resident elephant herds and the new rhinos, but eventually they reached a sort of heavyweight agreement. They realized there was enough food and water for everyone as long as they respected each other's bubbles. This truce of the titans added yet another layer of stability to the environment. The economic impact of this release has also been significant. People travel from all over the world to see the Big Five, And the black rhino is the crown jewel. With 32 new residents, the park has seen a surge in interest. This money goes directly back into protecting the animals. It pays for more rangers, better technology, and support for the local communities. It's a perfect example of how conservation can be a win-win for both nature and people. But the real heroes of this story are the rhinos themselves. They have adapted to their new world with a resilience that is truly inspiring. Despite the heat, the lions, and the new terrain, nearly all of the 32 individuals have thrived. Some have even started to breed, which is the ultimate sign of success. A new generation of black rhinos is being born into a world where they aren't just survivors, but leaders. The shock to the lions wasn't just physical. It was an evolutionary wake-up call. It reminded the big cats that they are part of a larger system. They aren't just the bosses. They are participants in a complex biological dance. This reintroduction has restored the balance of power. It has taken a savanna that was unbalanced and silent and turned it into a vibrant, noisy, and healthy ecosystem. As we look to the future, the Kenyan project serves as a blueprint for the rest of the world. It shows that we don't have to accept the ghost town version of our wild spaces. We can bring the giants back. We can restore the architects of the landscape. And while the lions might be a little more stressed and have to work a little harder for their dinner, they are ultimately part of a much more sustainable and beautiful world because of it. The 32 black rhinos of Kenya are more than just animals. They are symbols of what is possible when we stop looking at species in isolation and start looking at the whole picture. They have taught us that a single species can change the geography, the biology, and the social structure of an entire region. They have shown us that even the king of the jungle sometimes needs a reminder of who really runs the savannah. The next time you think about the African wilderness, don't just picture a lion stalking through the grass. Picture the giant armored pruner that came before it. Picture the black rhino, moving through the thickets, clearing the path and literally reshaping the world with every step. The savannah isn't empty anymore. It's full of life, full of conflict, and full of the incredible, shocking drama that only nature can provide. The Kenyan release is a story that is still being written. Every day, the rhinos find new paths. And every day, the lions find new ways to adapt. It's a dynamic, unfolding experiment that proves that the wild is never truly finished. It is always changing, always surprising us, and always showing us that the most shocking things happen when we simply let nature be nature. The rhinos are home, the lions are learning, and the savannah is finally breathing again. It's a masterclass in conservation, a celebration of biodiversity, and a powerful reminder that some of the most important things in life are 3,000 pounds, have 2 horns, and a very bad attitude toward lions. As the sun sets over the Kenyan savannah tonight, 32 black rhinos will be browsing on the acacia trees, indifferent to the world around them. And somewhere in the grass, a pride of lions will be watching them, keeping their distance, and preparing for a night of hunting in a world that is much wider and much more open than it was just a few years ago. The king has been humbled, the architect has returned, and the savannah has never looked better. This project reminds us that conservation is a long game. It's about more than just 1 year or 1 release. It's about ensuring that 1,000 years from now, a lion will still be surprised by a rhino at a waterhole. It's about keeping the mystery and the power of the wild alive for generations to come. And if that means a few lions have to lose their favorite nap spots in the bushes, then that is a price well worth paying. The return of the black rhino is a victory for everyone who believes in the resilience of the natural world. It's proof that we can fix what has been broken and that we can fill the empty spaces with something truly magnificent. The story of the 32 rhinos isn't just about survival. It's about the roaring, charging, brush-clearing comeback of one of the most incredible creatures to ever walk the earth. Stay tuned as we continue to follow these giants and the shocked predators in their wake. The savannah is once again a place of wonder, and we are just lucky enough to be watching it all unfold. The rhinos have made their mark, and the world will never be the same. This is the new age of the savannah, an age of balance, an age of beauty, and most importantly, the age of the rhino.